recently posted a video about the Sony Discman, and in that video I had a clip from an old Circuit City television commercial that showed a wall of receivers in a dimly lit room. I loved that when I was growing up, walking into one of those stores and seeing all the lights bouncing on all the component equipment, and it got me thinking, I miss that, and I kind of want that back. You know, as we get smaller components as time goes on, sure, they're more convenient, but what happens is I think you lose a little something visually. And for me, that's what led me down the road to find this Sony SEQ-711 graphic equalizer.
As I began this journey and started down the rabbit hole of searching for vintage hi-fi equalizers, I found there are some incredible holy grails out there in terms of rare and highly sought-after equipment. While I'm not necessarily searching for rare, I noticed there are essentially two varieties of units for sale. Either really poor condition, as in someone got tired of their old stereo and carelessly put it in their garage or basement only to realize years later that they actually had some valuable equipment, or, on the other end of the spectrum, excellent component pieces that were well taken care of and perhaps even forgotten about and kept in-house within a normal living environment. So, after realizing this, I came up with a set of criteria to help me narrow my search. First, it needs to look visually appealing and be in the best condition possible, both cosmetically and functionally, because, after all, I plan to have it amongst my other components. 2, it must have a spectrum analyzer, not just sliders. There are plenty of equalizers out there that have lots of band sliders but lack a spectrum analyzer. I'm sure they work just fine, but I need to have jumping bars because they're cool, and besides, how else am I supposed to know when there's music playing? 3, it must have both a left and a right channel analyzer. I found many that have single screens, but we live in a stereo world and I need to know what's going on in both speakers. And finally, price. I capped myself at around $400 for this project because, like anything, the sky's the limit with vintage audio, but I felt confident that I could find a unit within these criteria. So creating those parameters helped me narrow my search to the following units: the Akai EA-A7, the Pioneer GR77, the Kenwood GE76, and the Sony SEQ-711, which is what I eventually found and purchased on eBay from a seller in California. So here it is, the Sony SEQ-711, and you saw me just press display twice. That puts the unit into demo mode. These were manufactured between the years 1992 and 1994, and I don't believe it was part of a bigger system. I do believe this was a standalone unit. And I say that because those bigger systems, typically all of the components would pass through the equalizer, and you wouldn't have to choose any inputs, it would just automatically know. Whereas this has 2 inputs, where you do have to choose, and that's why I think this is a standalone unit that you would just purchase and add to your system as needed. It comes with 10 pre-programmed factory equalizer curves, plus you can also adjust and save 5 of your own. You may have noticed on that previous equalizer screen that these all share a common number, 7. Not only are these all 7-band equalizers, they also share the same 7 adjustable frequencies. There's probably a more scientific reason for this, but I can only assume that these were the most commonly adjusted frequencies because of their shared range. Speaking of range, I've always been curious as to how accurate spectrum analyzers were on home equalizers, so let's perform a 20 to 20,000 Hz sweep test. It looks like it swept through each band nicely, but I also want to know how precise it is. So here's a 400 Hz only test. So if this is accurate, it should only light up the 400 bar. Okay, that's enough of that. Now that I know it's precise, I downloaded some music from the YouTube music library that should do a good job of making the bars jump. Now that I know it works great and is in excellent cosmetic condition, I'm going to open it up to see if it's as clean on the inside as it is on the outside. Opening it up is pretty straightforward. There's 4 screws on the bottom of the unit, and I really can't think of any reason why anybody would need to be in here because there's really no working parts. It should just look like a little computer. And as you can see, this is super clean. I'm really only in here looking for capacitors that may be leaking or any type of corrosion, and I'm not seeing anything wrong, so I'm really happy with this purchase. And quite honestly, I don't think there would be anything that I could do, even if I did find something wrong in here. I would probably have to take it to a shop to be repaired. I think that would be beyond my capability. But I'm glad to see that it does look in fantastic condition. So with that all out of the way, the big question is, how does it sound? And I can tell you that it really does bring the speakers to life. Now, I love this tube stereo, and it sounds crystal clear. But if I have one criticism, it's that it only has 2 knobs, one that selects the input and one that controls the volume. There are no other ways to color the sound, so you're basically at the mercy of the recording as is. While some purists may argue that that's the way it should be, I'm only using this equalizer to balance the speakers and the amp to bring out the very best sound quality possible as opposed to creating a wall of noise. So for me, I did what I set out to do, which was to add a little nostalgia back into my life by adding a visually pleasing and fun to watch bouncing bar graphic equalizer, the Sony SEQ-711. If you enjoyed what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching.